So the title of my message today is The Beauty of the Cross. If you'll have to excuse me, I've been a little head cold the last couple of days, so if my voice kind of goes in and out a little bit, bear with me. But the cross, in and of itself, is a hideous thing. There's a poet, W.H. Auden, who eventually abandoned the faith, but he wrote at one time that Christmas and Easter can be subjects for poetry, but Good Friday, like Auschwitz, cannot. The reality is so horrible, it's not surprising that people should have found it a stumbling block to faith. How can we rightly call something so detestable beautiful? How has a device of torture become a symbol of peace and life? To understand it, we have to look at what beauty is. Beauty is too often confused with aesthetics. Okay? Aesthetics is a philosophical principle concerned with how we feel about something. Beauty is the essence of what something is, regardless of historical, cultural, or personal perception of that thing. We don't say that the cross is beautiful because it's pleasant to look at or to write about. It's beautiful because it's truth. The first aspect of beauty is that it's founded in truth, not facts. Facts are things that we understand in our minds. Truth is deeper than that. God has many different attributes. Some of those belong to Him alone. Others He has chosen to share with us. Truth, like love, is found in the attributes of who God is. Jesus Himself said that truth was an inseparable part of His nature. He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am those things. When God created the world, He said it was good. It was a reflection of His character. When sin entered and devastation that brought with it overtook creation, there were remnants of His beauty left in order to point us to God. We're all made in the image of God. And so we have the ability to see and understand and even create beauty. But it's only a shadow of the awesomeness of who God is. We try as hard as we can to make things better, to bring beauty into the world. And to a certain extent, we can do those things. But to understand true beauty, we have to look toward God. In our sin, we're frail. We're like dandelions that grow out of cracks in sidewalks. Something pretty one moment, but blown into the wind the next, leaving patches of concrete and fields of gray. Beauty without truth is fleeting. The cross without the Christ is just devastation. But the next thing we can say about beauty is that it's transfigurative. The reason we can call the cross beautiful is not because the wood and the nails and the blood come together to form a pleasing image. It's beautiful because of the juxtaposition of man's sin and death put up against the beauty and the wholeness of who Jesus is. Beauty, like love and truth, has the power to transform. Remember, when God created the world, He said that it was good. God never turns His back on His promises. He didn't create something beautiful to only see it exist for a moment. Our sin is not the end, it's an interruption. Whenever beauty is introduced into an ugly place, the beauty always wins. Scripture says that light will always overcome darkness. On the cross, the curse of sin was broken. Beauty was brought back into the world, just like spring overtook Narnian winter. Through the cross, we're no longer individual dandelions trying to survive. We're like trees planted by water that bear fruit in every season. How beautiful on the mountains are the feet of those who bring good news, who proclaim salvation. The beauty that we carry is not with us because of who we are, but because of the good news that we proclaim. God's designed it that way. We get to participate in the transfigurative power of beauty, of the cross, because we carry it with us and in us. The world we live in is still a dark place, and sometimes it's ugly. Without light, there is no color. There is no life. John tells us that Jesus himself is the light. But how will the light shine forth to reveal the beauty of God without a messenger? Psalms 58, verse 2 says, "From Zion, the perfection of beauty, God appears in radiance." We see multiple times in Scripture that Zion is a picture of Christ's body, the church. The psalmist tells us here that Zion, there is perfection of beauty within it. Beauty begins at the cross, but if that's the completion of it, we would all be in eternity right now. Jesus didn't stay on the cross. Death does not win the ultimate victory. We celebrate good news because Jesus conquered death. He rose from the grave and ascended into heaven, but before he did, he said, "I will return. But until then, you bring beauty to the earth." We have a privilege as God's people to proclaim peace, to bring good tidings, to share the gospel, to say that our God reigns. This is not just something that we talk about. This is not just something that we experience when we gather together in a setting like this, in our church buildings. This is something that we carry with us wherever we go and whatever we're doing. You have to understand that there are things that happen around us that they're ugly. You look at the news, you see things going on in the world, and there are things that are not great. People are dying. Even in our own city, there are those that go day to day, maybe without the food that they need to eat, or there's young children who don't have parents who want to give into their life and to pour into them. How can we, as God's people, bring beauty into dark places like that? So often we try to do things. We try to start a program, or we start an outreach. And these are good things, and they're accomplishing great things. I know in this community alone, there are lots and lots and lots of ministries that are out there serving people in need. Okay? But sometimes I think we put all the pressure on those others. And we don't realize that God has called us to be the light. God has called us to be the ones with beautiful feet, proclaiming from the mountaintops the good news of who God is. And so as we celebrate Easter and this week leading up to tomorrow, we step into Good Friday. Sunday, we celebrate the resurrection of Jesus. As we look at these things, let us not forget what God has called us into. Because he hasn't just saved us from a life of sin and death to exist. He has called us into a place of carrying forth his good news. We can bring beauty into the world because of the transfigurative power of the cross and how it has made us beautiful.